What's up, everyone? Welcome to Riff On This, candid conversations behind the music in Florida. And if you know anything about Florida and music, you know this is a big old state with a lot of talent. But we're here for all the juicy details and amazing stories behind the rhythms of all the genres flowing through the Sunshine State. I'm your host, Samara Kokinas, taking a break from the weather to catch a musical vibe with you. In the studio today, I am super excited. I have been waiting for weeks for this interview, and it is with the one, the only, Deejay Lyvwyr.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
I'm so happy to have you here.
I've been trying to get in here for I don't know how long. Finally, it happened, so I'm excited. I'm really psyched to do this interview.
Well, you know, that's what pencils are made for. You know, you can erase and reschedule and erase. That's entertainment.
And also, you can put them in your ear to look like you're important.
And you can pull your hair back also and make it into a bun. Rescheduling. I'm really glad you finally made it here.
Me too.
You know, we're good friends,
Yes.
and we hang out quite a bit. Luckily, I have the honor of hanging out with this gentleman quite frequently. And I have to say, when we were on the phone one night, and I was telling you about this potential for this podcast, and you started telling me your story, I was just like, and then I went, and for those just listening, my mouth dropped a little bit, and then it dropped halfway, and then it was just, what? Your story is so cool. So I was just like, I need him. I need you on my show. I need you here to talk about how you got started and all the really cool things. Because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but you're the official DJ for Dougie Fresh.
I am.
That's kind of a big deal.
I am. It's kind of a big deal, but to me, it's just like making music with my friend. You know, like just being able to travel and play music with my friend. And that's really what it comes down to. And it's an interesting story how that came about, but I'll let you conduct the interview.
Oh, no. By all means, take it away. Because, you know, a lot of people, you know, they're like, I'm not going to sit here and orchestrate questions for you. I want you to tell the story how you told me, minus, you know, anything that won't keep it PG.
Okay. Well, it all started in a little town called Willacoochee, Georgia. No, that's not true. So to start it from the ground floor, I used to live on Nostrand Avenue in Brooklyn, New York, and I lived above a tailor shop. And at that time, you know, rappers at that time used to wear those, you know, those custom velour Gucci suits and MCM and with the leather and, you know.
They're making a comeback.
Right.
I see them. I saw them at the Grammys a lot. Plies had one.
Because at one point, only Jerome from Martin actually wore these suits. So now they're coming back. So, you know, what I used to do, I used to have this little notebook, and I used to get, like, autographs from the rappers that would pull up and get their suits made. And one day, Dougie Fresh pulls up. I'm 10 years old. At the time, his big hit, Keep Rising to the Top, was like all over the place. Mm-hmm. And I run downstairs like I normally do, and I'm like, hey, can you sign my book? And he signs it, but unlike every other celebrity I've met, he actually stops and talks to me, and he says, you know, what do you want to do when you grow up? And of course, me being the exuberant kid, I just start rattling off things like, I want to be a rapper, I want to be a producer, I want to be a DJ, I want to be an actor, I want to do this, you know. And he's like, okay. He's like, all right, cool. He's like, but you know you're going to need an education to make these things happen, right? Mm-hmm. And I go, yeah, I do well in school. He's like, what are your grades like? And I start telling him. And he literally talked and gave me advice. And that was the day that I knew this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And so going forward, everything that I did, with the exception of basketball, because I also thought I was going to be the next Magic Johnson, but we're not going to get into all that.
You're wearing the Jordans today,
right.
So you know you're keeping up with the basketball swag.
Right, and not to sidetrack, I hated Michael Jordan growing up because he used to beat the crap out of my Knicks, and I hated it. But he makes a comfortable shoe, so there's that.
There's that, yeah.
But, you know, everything that I did going forward was towards that one goal. And he wasn't my only influence. You know, there was also cool DJ Red Alert out of New York, who I absolutely loved. Marley Marl, Funkmaster Flex, before he started just ragging on everyone. But anyways.
We did car shows here.
Yes. You know, Angie Martinez. There's just a lot of people in radio and music in general that really kind of motivated me to do what I'm doing. Special K from the Awesome 2 is a mentor of mine. You know, he was there in the beginning. You know, Doug was there in the beginning. So I became somewhat of a hip hop historian. So as the years went by, I didn't see Doug again until I was already there. I became a DJ. I was doing big events, you know, House of Blues. I was doing a lot of things, traveling. I was DJing for Rampage, the Last Boy Scout from Flip Mode Squad for a while. You know, like just really making things happen. And a friend of mine, Pat Nix, who was with a promotions group called Frontline, they used to do a lot of big things in Florida.
They did. Frontline Entertainment, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so Pat hired me to do a show at the House of Blues with Dougie Fresh, Slick Rick, and Big Daddy Kane. So I came and I was supposed to play the music in between. But at this time, and this is what I always tell people, Heavy D was responsible for my opportunity. Heavy D had just passed away, and I was supposed to go out there and get the crowd hype. And instead of playing the normal stuff, I just decided, you know what? No, I'm going to play a whole Heavy D set. They may like it, they may not. I don't care. So I got out there and I'm doing this Heavy D set, and people loved it. So as I'm coming off the stage, Doug kind of grabs me, hooks my arm, and he goes, "Hey, I need to talk to you when I get off of stage." So I was like, all right, cool. He gets off, he comes to me, he says, "Hey, Heavy D and I were like brothers, you know, like very, very, very close." And he's like, you know, because I don't know, a lot of people don't know this, but Doug was actually almost signed to Andre Harrell's Uptown back in the days. And so he's like, you know, what you did out there was just amazing. He's like, I would love for you to do something like that with me again on another show. So I said, all right, cool. So Pat was really the one that put me in position for this to happen. And so, sure enough, he did call, and the rest is history. So we've been
What
doing
was
shows
that
for a
like,
while.
though? When you got that phone call, you know you were excited.
I thought it was a joke.
Oh, really?
I thought it was a joke because I had told all my friends that Dougie Fresh was going to call me, so I thought it was one of my friends pranking me.
Oh, like, where's Ashton?
Right. Like, yeah, exactly. So I'm like, at first I was like, yeah, right. Like, I and this is a true story. I picked up the phone. Hey, he's like, "Hey, Wire, this is Doug. Man, get out of here." And he's like, "Yo, I wanted to call you about the show." And I was like, "What show? What show? What are you talking about?"
No.
"I'll humor you. What show?" And he's like, "Yo, you know you're really talking to me, right?" And I look at the number and I'm like, 646? Maybe. You know, like and so I talked to him and I realized that it was him, and then his booking agent called me the next day, my friend Mary Sierra, and that's when I knew everything was actually real.
Did you tell him that you thought it was a joke?
I did. I told him. I was
Okay,
like, yo, I really thought that it was a game because my friends knew about it. And my friends are very well known for pranking me. You know Jay Johnson. Okay. He does this all the time.
Facts.
I was just like, who? You know, I didn't think that it was real, but everything worked out great. And he's such a wonderful person. And he treats me like family, especially at this point. We've been rocking together for almost 15 years now. So everything's been great.
So, you know, it wasn't always great for you trying to be a DJ, though. I know your family didn't exactly. I mean, you know, any parent, I can honestly tell you, being a mom, I get it. You know, you want your child to do the most with their life. Not the best, but the most that they possibly can to the best of their ability. And they were kind of like, a DJ? Really?
You know what? In my mind, I wanted them to give me the Bobby Boucher treatment, like, you can do it. Did not happen for me. Not at all. My mom is old school Caribbean. My family is from Trinidad. And my mom, you know, in the old school Caribbean aspect, they always think that reaching for the stars is becoming a nurse or a lawyer or maybe somewhat of an accountant.
Or
banking.
doctor.
Yeah, like they think more practical.
Yes.
And that side of my brain has never really been accessed. I'm always like, I'm a dreamer. My daughter is too. I'm just a dreamer. I like to look at things that people think are probably impossible and just try to do it, you know? And so she never really supported me. She always, and I'm sorry, Mom. I don't mean
we're
it
not
like
bashing
that.
you, Mom. We're not bashing you.
I don't mean it like that.
We get it. We get it. We get you
Right.
the good part in a second.
Right. As far as like the DJ aspect, because she wanted me to have a sound career and something that
Absolutely.
I can do, that I can
Stability.
retire from, and so forth and so on. And I get it, you know. But the funny thing is that when I actually did start to make it and gained a lot of ground, now she's the first person in every room. Like, do you know my son? My son is a big DJ in America. You know, my son does DJ for Dougie Fresh. I don't know if you know that, but you know who Dougie Fresh is? Okay. You know, like, she's really...
She's your number one fan.
Right. You know, so...
But she always has been, you know, like I said, as a parent, you get it too now as a parent.
Yes, absolutely.
You want the best for your kids.
Absolutely.
You want them to do the best. And look at you out there just doing the best. I won't say the most.
I'm trying.
The best. You know, you're
trying.
doing amazing. So,
Yes.
you know, you didn't. So you also have had a few other well, I would say I wouldn't call them diverts. I would say maybe taking a stroll down a different path in between all your producing and all of your DJing. So please tell us, because I do believe we appreciate your service in there.
Yes. So, to all you kids out there, if you have a dream, stick to it, don't give up, and stay focused. Don't do like this guy. I was a pretty good basketball player in my day, and I thought that at some point that's what I'd be doing. So, you know, I wanted to go to school and play college ball, et cetera, et cetera. Got to college, didn't go to class. All I wanted to do was DJ and chase girls. And I found myself in a predicament where I was going to be on probation and I could not continue doing what I wanted to do. So
You are not going home to your mama to tell her that either.
No. Listen, if you have Caribbean parents, you understand. Like,
Right.
that is not a thing that's not a conversation you ever want to have.
Right.
Okay? You'll be looking out for belts and slippers and look, that's not a conversation you want to have.
Right.
But so at the time, my cousin, he was in the military. We're the same age, and he was in for a year already. And he was like, D, I think that'll be a really good move for you. He knew he wanted to do that all his life. I never did. Mm-hmm. So, but I was kind of between a rock and a hard place, and I decided that I would go ahead and serve. Best decision I ever made in my life.
Which branch?
Army. And I spent 8 years in the Army. It was the greatest thing I've ever done for myself, because for someone who doesn't really necessarily have a direction at the time, mm-hmm. this worked out great for me because it gave me the time and opportunity to figure that out. Mm-hmm. So, I got in there, I did finance, supply first and then finance. And then I was able to go back to school, and I was able to, to work in that field to give me the experience. So when I came out, I had a lot more doors open for me. I could do anything I wanted to do, basically, and I had the GI Bill. So now, I have my education, no student loans. I can appreciate that.
You should. You should, because I am trying to defer. I'm going to be a forever student.
So it's been great. And so I ended up serving for 8 years. It was a wonderful experience. I made lifelong friends, lifelong connections. And it's also like being in the greatest fraternity in the world, because I can go to any job and there's always somebody that's former military that will see my resume and say, oh my God, yeah, I was former military too. And it just kind of puts you in this fraternity where you're always supported. So yeah. I think it was the greatest thing for me.
That's awesome. And plus you were kind of killing two birds with one stone. You were making your mommy happy.
Yes.
By having that stable career, which you are now still working in finance, correct?
Yes. During the week, I have two completely polar opposite jobs. Mm-hmm. Monday through Thursday, I run payroll for Lockheed Martin. Mm-hmm. And then from Friday to Sunday, I tour DJ. So it's two completely different things, but
and you produce, right?
Yes, I also produce. Currently, I'm working with an artist named Chub Rock. I'm sure you're familiar.
I am. For those that aren't, go ahead.
Yes, Chub Rock has his most famous song is "Treat 'Em Right." It's a big, big, huge song. Still gets played in the clubs. I don't know if you're familiar with TikTok, but the dancing trucker, he always does his dance to Chub Rock, "Treat 'Em Right." So if you're familiar with him, if you don't know Chub Rock and you know the dancing trucker, you're ahead of the game. So, but it's been great. It's been great.
Yeah, for sure. So when you talk about like the music, the music is always changing, but now we're starting to see. And I've talked with you about this before. We're starting to see a lot of the 90s and 2000s. I hear music and I'm like, hey, that's not the song I thought it was. Wait a minute. You know what I mean? And we're not old. I'm going to say that again probably about 5 more times. We're not old.
Yes.
But, sampling music and the trends and everything, how has that been with you, mixing and going back and forth between Dougie's style of beatbox and old school hip hop to what we listen to currently?
Well, the interesting thing is, this is going to be a shameless plug. I'm going to warn you ahead of time. But I have a mix called The Foundation. It's hosted by Dougie Fresh. And it's about appreciating the samples that made some of hip hop's greatest songs. It's not about the hip hop song, it's just about the sample portion of that hip hop song, but it infuses little tiny pieces of the actual hip hop song that sampled it. And so to answer your question, I've always felt that sampling had to be a major part of hip hop because we have to pay homage to those that made hip hop possible.
Absolutely.
We have to do that. It's a necessity. I have no problem with producers who make beats, original content, because we need original content to keep it alive.
Absolutely.
But I do feel that the soul of hip hop will always be from sampling because we used to take those break beats from greats like Bob James and his name is escaping me right now, but people like Bob James, who his songs have probably been sampled millions of times. I mean, and that is the foundation to which the MC became the MC, to which the DJ became the DJ. We cannot somehow remove that from the history of hip hop. It has to be a mainstay. So I love to hear when they sample old songs and make it new. And I'm one of those people, and I say this all the time. I know a lot of people from our generation kind of look down on what hip hop is right now, but I actually don't, because I feel like hip hop always tells a story. The things that they go through is what they have to speak about. We can't expect them to be us. We can't expect them to have the same moral standing that we do. Our times are different. I can appreciate our era because our era created this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate it. But at the same time, in order to keep this thing going that we love and hold so dearly, we have to allow them to express themselves the way that they do. Because 10, 20 years down the line, they will be us, and they will also be looking at that generation like, what are these kids talking about? Right? Because art imitates life, so we have to allow them to do that.
Absolutely. It's really funny now because I don't know if you've noticed, but
Ahmad Jamal. That's
Ahmad Jamal, that was the name you were trying to remember.
Sheesh, my
You're
old
like
brain.
me. No, again, for the third time. We are not old. There's no need to say that. We're not old. But I have noticed that, and I don't know if you noticed, but when you go shopping now and you could be in Publix, you could be in wherever, it doesn't matter, you could be in any store at this point, and all of a sudden I'll hear some SWV.
Yes.
Or I'll hear.
Yes.
And I'm like, wait a minute. Why do I clean to this music now?
Yes.
This was like my era. Okay, this is what I used to party to, and now I'm cleaning and shopping to it.
I mean, how do I accept or how do I accept or come to the realization that this is now adult contemporary?
Right?
Like how
it's elevator music.
Right. And I'm rocking to it like it just came out yesterday, and it's not. It's like You know, it's adult contemporary hip hop and R&B is what it is now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but it's cool though because
Classic.
Yeah, it's classic. You know, like classic music now. Like we listen to this the way that when we were younger, our parents would listen to Marvin Gaye or
Right.
would listen, you know, to Chuck Berry or whoever. You know, like that's how they listen to them, and that's how we listen to them, and that's why I say music is a continuous documentation of life. So
Yeah.
we can't look at what they're doing and say, "Oh, that's whack. That's not like what we did." Of course, it's not.
Garbage. No, because our parents, you know, at one point, I remember, you know, someone in my family. I'm not gonna name names, but when "Baby Got Back" came
Right.
out, I was like, dun, 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 dun.
Yes.
You can't see me dancing if you're listening to this, but I am dancing in my seat, and the seat might fall. But you know, with that song, I mean, that was provocative music.
Right.
That was explicit lyrics. That was, I mean, my first CD was Onyx Slam.
Yes. I love that CD, by the way.
Parental guidance. I had to
Yes.
have my.
I can't even say the title of that album.
No.
But yes.
No.
Yes.
Right. But, you know, it's, and now they you know, dub it, make it easy listening.
Yes. Yes. And you know what's funny? And not to veer off, but I was doing a party for a person who will remain nameless because I don't want to embarrass this person. But out of the blue, Sticky Fingers from Onyx shows up. Just shows up out of the blue.
Really?
And so this person comes up to me and says, "Hey, Sticky Fingers is here?" And I was like, "Where?" And I started looking around, and they point him out in the back of the room. They had gotten him a table. And this person is like, "Who is that?" My heart dropped.
It's okay.
Like, I was like, what?
Wait a minute.
What are you even asking me right now? So I'm like, I gotta do a tribute because he's here.
Right.
I have to do a tribute. And this person's like, I don't know. I don't want to, you know, mess up the party. I was like, trust me. It ain't gonna mess it up. I got
It's
this.
gonna be a whole vibe in a minute.
Yes, and he came to me after we took a picture and we talked, and he came to me afterwards and he was like, "Hey, I appreciate that, man. That was really cool." And I just, you know, I was just such a fanboy. I'm like, "Oh, I remember when you were in New York Undercover. I remember when you know, like just going on and on and on, the movies he's done and things like that. Like, just, and that's just part of me being a fan of hip hop in general. The newer artists, I meet a lot of newer artists, and it's cool. Like, I like passing on what I know.
Right.
But people I came up on, like KRS-One and Big Daddy Kane and Dougie Fresh and all these people, I could just sit there and listen to them for hours about everything they've been through, all the things they've done. I mean, it's little tidbits of stories, like, you know.
Like what we're doing right now.
Yeah, like, you know.
This is how I feel.
Yes.
No, seriously, I get it because it's really cool to see how people, you know, have lived their life through music, or, you know, even people who they impact people who are not in music on a daily basis. But you know, you're a lot like me. We're eclectic when it comes to music.
Yes.
So you won't catch me. This is why this is an all genre podcast. You're not just going to catch me listening to hip hop all day, folks. You will hear me rocking we talked about this the other day, Journey.
Yes,
I love Journey.
absolutely.
I love AC/DC. I love Metallica. I love Stained. I like country music. Chris Stapleton, his voice is what gives me chills. He's got such a blues music. I love blues and real good soul. Don't hate me. I'm not a huge R&B head. I know. But the thing is I do like certain songs with R&B, and I can appreciate it. So I think, you know, when you meet other people that have been influenced so powerfully through music, it's interesting. And a lot of people, believe it or not, are interested in it too.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
Yes, but that's why I feel like our generation has to stop maligning the new generation. We have to stop.
Yeah.
Because if we don't pass on that knowledge and we don't show them the things that we've done, they can't improve upon it. We have to show them. Just quickly, I remember watching 106 in Park one day, way back in the days.
Wow.
And a young Mario was on there. And he just came out with Just a Friend. And Free asked him, what do you think about the original? And he's like, I've never heard it. And Biz Markie is on his song, and he's never heard the original. And this is what I mean. That's not a failure on his part. That's a failure on our part.
Right.
You can't just put a song in front of this kid and say, sing it this way, this is the beat, this is the artist, and never play him the original to get the idea of how he can improve upon the song. And it's a great song, but that's my point. We gotta stop doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. The only version I hear is, I can only hear Biz Markie's version. But that's my era. But at the same rate, my kids, the other night, we were at my sister's wedding. And this is a while ago, actually. Bon Jovi, Living on a Prayer.
Yes.
My son stood next to his cousin that is my age. We are not old.
Disclaimer.
Stood next to him. And they're about 20 years apart, okay? Give them some credit. I'm not, though. Anyway, and they're both singing the lyrics, and they're both named Kevin. And I'm like, I took the best video and picture of the Kevins rocking out to Bon Jovi. And, it made my heart just so happy to see them, because my son loves rap, and he loves EDM music. I'm like, do you? Come here, I got some music for you, you know what I mean? So it all evolves from somewhere. But if you could tell, I would say if you could tell younger generation whenever they're listening to, old school, don't call it old school. don't. We are classic.
Adult contemporary.
Adult contemporary for the grown and sexy, right?
Yes.
What would you tell them when they're listening to the music? When they're listening to it, how to appreciate that music of that era?
I think the only way, I'll reverse it. The only way for me to appreciate their music is to actually talk to a young person.
Yeah.
To actually talk to them and listen to them.
Right.
This is actually my parenting style.
Love it.
I talk to my children and I listen to them, and they kind of put me on to some things as to why things are the way they are. Because, it's really interesting listening to their perspective on why things are the way that they are. Mm-hmm. And I think when you listen to, my kids, when they listen to my music, they certainly have a visual of why we were talking about the things we were talking about. Because I'm quick to let them know, I grew up in Brooklyn during the crack era. If you want to see what that looks like, let me put on New Jack City. So you can see how tumultuous this thing was. It just was crazy.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I lived in an environment like that. And my only goal was to make it out, and so that when I one day had children, I could make it a hell of a lot easier for you.
Yeah.
And that's why I did it. And so when they listen to my music, they actually listen to my music without having to be coerced into doing it. They like it. They can appreciate it, but they understand the mentality, and they understand where we were coming from. Now, they do make fun of our outfits. Mace wearing a shiny suit.
Okay, listen, I think we all, there are things that we regret during the 90s and, even the early 2000s when I look at some of these things. But I have to say on Versus, not to get distracted from what you're saying, but on the Versus battle, when the Lox and Dipset. First of all, where was the pink fuzzy hat?
Right.
Let's be real, Cameron.
Yes.
But Jewels, they had an instant meme about him.
All decked out.
Talking about he looked like a pile of laundry. And I'm like, no, that was what we wore.
I'm telling you.
They're wearing our clothes now. Jinko jeans. They're just not calling them Jinkos.
Yes. Yes.
Boo Boo's back. In the stores. I was like, what?
I'm telling you, about 12, maybe 15 years ago, my son was making fun of me because he found a Christmas picture of me getting a Nintendo, right? And I had this, and you guys, some of you guys can't see this, but I had kind of we used to call it a step up. And it was one side was low. It's a flat top, but one side was low. Then there's a line in the middle all the way to the back, and one side was high. And I never heard the end of it. And I had like a little blonde streak, in the front, like Kwame. It was just like, and I never heard the end of it. I had cuts in the eyebrows.
You did not have the reflectors.
Like, oh man. The overall with one side down, and
that was fly,
like,
though.
I thought I was BBD. I was like, I had everything like
you were crisscross.
Oh yeah, and in the picture you got to style it, so you got to kind of lean to the side, no smiling, just like
mugging.
And he saw that, and I never heard the end of it. Like, look at your jeans, look at you, whatever. Now we're 15 years ahead, and they're wearing all the same things.
And you're like, wait a minute.
Yes.
Do you want me to hook you up with the right hairstyle for that outfit?
Right. They're all doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I mean, down to the shoes. He had on my shoes. He has all the same stuff that I wore back then. So
block colored shirts.
All of that.
When that came back, I was like, I already wore tie-dye and bell-bottoms once. I shan't wear them again.
Yes. It's done. It's over for me.
It's over.
It's over for me.
Yeah, so definitely, listening to one another and each like how we've been doing today, I think is definitely key in really feeling and appreciating music. So yes. I'm so glad that you came on the show today. Thank you. He's gonna shake my hand. Your hand's warm though. I'm freezing. I'm always cold.
Oh well, I'm from up north, so
cold-blooded. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule and penciling me in on a Sunday or on a weekend, I should say. We recorded this on a weekend, so yes. I really do appreciate your time and of course all your knowledge. You have been an amazing story, and I hope everyone else enjoys it as well. So.
Well, thank you for having me. I would also like to say hi, Mom.
Hey, Mom. We love you.
I love you. And hey, JoJo.
Aww.
She left me. She went to...
She didn't leave you. She went to her meeting.
I'm trying to gain sympathy, Samara.
There's no sympathy here. Joanne, we love you.
And but yeah, thank you for having me. Also, if anybody wants to check me out, my Instagram handle is @Deejay Lyvwyr. It's not spelled like the conventional Lyvwyr because I have to be complicated. So it's Lyvyr, DJ Lyvyr. Check me out. And I look forward to interacting with everyone. Yeah, most definitely. We're going to put some links, and I'll give you some more links where you can hear your playlists and everything else, too. So we'll definitely take a minute out of your day and listen to this very talented friend and what I am honored to call friend of mine. So. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Riff On This. Be sure to stay locked in tight, and we'll have another interview coming up for you. Thanks so much for listening to Riff On This. A huge thank you to our guest, Deejay Lyvwyr. You can listen to Lyvwyr's latest music in the link attached in the episode description. Also, be sure to follow him on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching @Deejay Lyvwyr. You can also link me on my social media. Just search Samara Kokinas News 6 on Facebook and Twitter, or on Instagram, search Samara Kokinas. Before we go, a huge thank you to our behind-the-scenes production team, Derek Mosier, Ryan Haley, Rich Burns, and Joe Grinnan. Please take some time to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget, sharing is caring, so tell a friend about us too. You can find videos of all the podcast episodes on clickorlando.com/podcast. Until next time, friends.